No, I'm curious of the last speaker, Brian. You spoke of engagement.
Yeah, hold on. Sorry.
For the translators.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. So, at the beginning of your talk, you talked about 4 elements or aspects, and one of those was engagement. And that caused some curiosity. Is engagement with the data? In what aspect?
Yeah, I think the point I was trying to make is that there are several technology forces, right, beyond just the Internet of Things that have really come into play in the last couple of years, right? That's data, cloud, and then a third one is engagement. What it means is how we interact, right, whether it be socially, right, with others, how we interact with the physical world in terms of other things, or how we interact in terms of business processes. And that's being dramatically changed because of mobile technology, right? All of us having access to smartphones, right? So if you think about how businesses have really conducted IT in the past, what IT people have done in businesses is they look for best practices in terms of processes, right? They capture those and they build applications, right? They deploy applications. It used to be centralized. Mobile and social tools are starting to dramatically change the interaction, the way you and I interact, the way we exchange information, the way we communicate. That's the notion of that engagement model is changing, right? That was the point.
Thank you.
Buenas. The question is for you as well. First, I guess I want to just well, because you guys are such experienced people in this industry, I wanted to ask 2 questions. The first one is, and I agree with everything everybody is saying here today, but I think there's one very important key feature that's left out, and that is how are you going to be in 9 billion devices? It has to be logic and fun for the user. And I guess my question is, I believe this comes from, or at least in our experience, young entrepreneurs. Okay, so the young entrepreneurs are disrupting in this area. We saw some speaker talk about somebody who was 17 years old. And, how would you, with the experience you have, what advice would you give us as young entrepreneurs? Because I guess the hardest thing for us, we know, is to be taken seriously, I guess, amongst these big corporations and big, so I guess that's my first question. And just rapidly, my second question is if you guys, if you agree that we are living in very interesting times, almost comparable to when the machines were, when the personal computers was being invented. Thank you.
Okay, so I would tell you, now is the amazing time to be a developer or an engineer. I mean, the next 10 years, 20 years, what's going to be delivered in terms of innovation, product innovation, or service innovation, is really just an amazing time to be a developer or an engineer, just the tools you have access to. And so your point of, maybe the last 100 years in terms of the Industrial Revolution, there was a lot of advantage by size, right, and enterprises having the ability to develop applications and scale applications, right? Having access to resources, having access to expertise. In the world going forward, I think a great example today is 2 guys with a cup of coffee at Starbucks can do amazing things across any industry, right? They can create a company like Uber. They can create a company like Airbnb. They can disrupt transportation, automotive, a lot of these different industries. So it doesn't need to be large enterprise companies like IBM or John Deere. Matter of fact, no company has the ability to do it on themselves, right, on their own. The other thing that Richard talked about was the importance of the ecosystem, right? And you bring together expertise of companies and individuals of all sizes to help really scale. So the critical part, I think, is this notion of what is your differentiation, no matter who you are, as an enterprise or an individual, right, that you can deliver value innately on the tools that are available today. So IBM's placed a big bet around big data and analytics. You've seen us get away from producing hardware And you've really seen us move to more of a software and services company anchored on big data and analytics, right? Everybody's going to have to think about that model. John Deere's going to have to think about that model. Everybody's going to think about that model. But for somebody like yourself, if you're a software developer or an engineer, it doesn't matter if you're part of a large company or with your buddy. You're going to have equal access through things like Bluemix to transform industries and transform the world. So second question was PCs. I think this is the Internet of Things and the three technology forces I talked about, data, cloud, and engagement, is going to have an order of magnitude more impact on the world than PCs did. I mean, PCs had a big impact, but I think these forces are going to, you just see, and this rate and pace of change, we didn't talk about this today, but that's the other challenge, is the rate and pace of change. It's very hard for people to constantly change, right? So the other thing is, if you're able to really adapt and change, you're going to thrive in the future.
I'll add to that if I may. Let's see. Is this working over here?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, great. So in the material that I presented, there were medical devices that were I would call old-fashioned box, display, sensor platform. But once we pulled the data from those devices, and then we combined it with data from multiple devices, there's not much of a need to look at that big, expensive device any longer. So that big device is taking up a lot of space and is expensive, but we're only using a very small part of the functionality. We're using an important part, which is the sensor end. Now these are integrated, somewhat sophisticated sensors with signal conditioning and front-end algorithms. But you could take that box that costs $20,000 and shrink that down into a small sensor package, put that onto a common backplane with a common power supply, common communication bus, and a few other things, and remove the display, remove most of the other things. Once you can find a way to deliver reliable, the communication must be superb. If you're sending a medical alarm, it has to reliably be delivered in 3 or 4 seconds. But that's very easy to achieve. That's a few seconds, not a few milliseconds. So this is extremely disruptive in that you can add the new intelligence and the new way of doing things with the current older technology still in place. Build a parallel new system using the capabilities of the maker environment, open source development, and start to perform pilot implementations, experimental implementations in healthcare that will attract a lot of attention and then be funded. So I think the barriers are falling away. And one of the key barriers has been the inability to connect to the medical devices because there's still a very strong business case to have closed and proprietary interfaces. However, there are many devices that are open. But they're not open. They may be proprietary interfaces, not standards conforming, but the manufacturers have still opened the interfaces. And, for example, our program has posted in the public domain open source drivers for many devices. And I agree. There's no time like the present. When I was a little kid in the 1800s, I would go to Radio Shack and buy a bag of components and transistor no vacuum tubes. I'd buy transistors and resistors and build things. And then a few years later, you could buy an IC and do a lot more, not spend your time doing other things. And now you buy BeagleBones and Raspberry Pis, and it's for those who are still kind of the explorers, the technology explorers. The journey is similar, the exploration is similar, but what can be achieved and the impact on the world is much greater than it used to be, even by a small group of individuals or a small team. That's what you said.
How about you, Mike?
Yo quería preguntarles En muchos de los casos que hemos visto hoy, el secreto es la colaboración. Colaboración entre empresas, colaboración entre instituciones. En el caso de las ciudades, colaboración entre instituciones de seguridad, de limpieza, de transporte, de toda clase de cosas dentro de la misma ciudad. A veces uno se pone cínico y dice que es suficiente razón para que esto no funcione en Costa Rica, porque aquí preferimos hacer trabonazos que hacer pase, ¿verdad? Sin embargo, eso no es cierto. Eso no es cierto, ¿verdad? Sí es posible colaborar. La pregunta aquí es, igual, ¿verdad? En el caso de los dispositivos médicos, collaboration es essential. Y digo, es una pesadilla para los traductores cuando uno cambia de idioma, ¿verdad? Pero bueno. La pregunta es... okay.
Delay, so
Yeah, I know. So, what I'd like you guys to refer to is the difficulty to achieve this collaboration, and does there always have to be a leader? Does somebody have to get everyone else behind them to get this collaboration going? You know, because otherwise it's just like herding cats, isn't it?
Yes.
And how does this leader come about?
I'll try and go from there. I agree. So our research program was very lucky. We were very fortunate that funding agencies recognized the value of our work and that we were awarded $18 million in federal funding. And I wasn't sure whether that would be enough to effect change. And it has been on a small scale. And we decided, based upon a lot of ideas, like you're saying, and others, that we had to do something else to get it out to the community. And that's why we just created the ICE Alliance. I hope it will be more effective. I believe it will be. It may not be. It may be an experiment that fails. But a lot of organizations quickly joined and said, this makes sense, let's adopt. Because it's all about ultimately the adoption and the iteration, the rapid cycles of iteration. So we're trying to provide leadership from our organization in a small, just a very tiny part of this very big and interesting picture that will change the world. And probably in another decade, it'll all just be one and not separate organizations. Maybe. The Borg organization. Oh, that already exists, doesn't it?
En la mañana le pregunté esa misma pregunta a Warren, y Warren nos dice que típicamente alguien en una oficina ejecutiva del alcalde o un tipo CIO tiene que haber alguien que coja la bola y corra con ella. A veces Cisco ayuda a jugar un papel neutral, como hay tanta gente metida, alguien debe coordinarlos. Muchas veces existe también un ente privado como un business development de la economía de la ciudad o del país. En general yo creo que lo que nos están diciendo todos es que no hay una receta, ¿verdad? Sin liderazgo no va a haber coordinación y no va a haber colaboración. Yo tenía otra pregunta para Brian y para Gabriel. Es que si ustedes, que los dos son de instituciones grandes, diferentes pero muy grandes, si ustedes se toman su propia medicina, ¿están aplicando el Internet de las Cosas en el ICE, en IBM?
Bueno, en el ICE, obviamente el ICE es un operador, es un operador de telecomunicaciones y como tal nos estamos tomando muy en serio el Internet de las Cosas. Sabemos el impacto que puede traer sobre nuestras redes, el impacto que puede traer sobre la capacidad de las conexiones, las conectividades. Estamos monitoreando permanentemente la saturación de los enlaces internacionales. Cada cierto tiempo tenemos que estar haciendo un upgrade, tenemos que estar... El sector eléctrico, pues también, don Roberto, en el sector eléctrico traemos proyectos propios de interconexión de medidores, donde estamos intentando unir sinergias, ¿verdad? Medidores que estamos conectando a través de las redes inalámbricas. Hay también algunas iniciativas en fibra óptica. Sin embargo, pues en el tema de medidores el flujo de datos no es muy alto. Entonces, pues es una opción ahí la parte inalámbrica. Pero sí tenemos, digamos, tanto en sinergias entre corporativas, compañía First Luz, ICE Eléctrico, ICE Telecomunicaciones, y por la parte de telecomunicaciones, pues obviamente el monitoreo de la explosión de datos.
So, do we eat our own cooking? That was the question, I think, right? I think somebody else brought up earlier, I was talking about our engineering performance management solutions, something, an acquisition we made called Telelogic. IBM is the largest implementer of using those engineering tools. We have 150,000 people at IBM that actually use those product development tools and DevOps software delivery tools. So, yes, I mean, that's one example. Another one is intelligent buildings. We have an intelligent building offering. IBM's really focused and dedicated on, in terms of implementation of green, energy efficient practices because they drive the bottom line. So we're one of the largest implementers of our intelligent building solutions as well. And then back to your point on leadership, I think it's important that, it's interesting, a lot of the people around this Internet of Things space, like myself, you find are really passionate. So, in terms of this space, I've been involved in this space for a long time. So do you have to have a passionate leader involved to help drive change? I think you do in lots of applications, especially the tougher jobs like Julian's on here around medical device interoperability, where it's a highly regulated environment, you have very complex systems of systems. You have to have that passionate champion to make that change happen, right? In other areas, though, I think the model that Richard talked about in terms of this industrial internet consortium, bringing together an ecosystem, basically the IIC creates an opportunity for companies of all sizes to get together and align behind common interests and goals. You heard him talk about these test beds around track and trace, etc. That allows, an ecosystem of companies, or even universities and governments and companies, to form around a common challenge or problem. So I think it's a combination of passionate leaders, but also enabling the ecosystem.
Bueno, como vamos a terminar a tiempo hoy para variar. Quiero realmente agradecerles a todos la asistencia. Quiero pedirles que le den vueltas a toda nueva información, nuevo conocimiento que compartimos hoy. Y el lunes a todos ustedes les va a llegar un correo con un formulario de evaluación para que nos den retroalimentación. Yo creo que este va a ser apenas el principio de lo que vamos a hablar y discutir alrededor de este tema. Yo creo que queda todavía mucha tela por cortar y nada más. Muchas gracias.